Welcome to What You Really Want to Know. I am attorney Amanda Shaffer. Today we are going to talk about the new Family Reunification Parole Process. And before I get to that, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching so that you don't miss any of our lives. And if you find this information to be helpful or know someone who may, go ahead and click that share button. So, the new family reunification process was announced back in April, but it just started yesterday, actually. So, as of yesterday, the Department of State is notifying certain individuals that they're eligible for this new family reunification process.
I'm back. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so the whole purpose of the family reunification process is to reunite families. Basically, you may or may not know that when you file for one of your relatives, unless they're considered an immediate relative, there is not an immigrant visa generally available, right? Like as soon as the I-130 is approved. Therefore, you have to wait. Now, even if you are an immediate relative, so a spouse of a U.S. citizen, unmarried child under 21 of a U.S. citizen, parent of a U.S. citizen over the age of 21, even in those situations, there may be a reason that you need to get your family to the U.S. faster. Now, there's been family reunification process for Cubans and Haitians for a long time, and they're coming back, and there'll be new announcements soon about for newer people to apply, because there have been ones that have been pending for a while. So the whole point is that these countries, most recently, and the other countries as well, Ukraine, they also created a process for, is because it's not necessarily safe to be in the countries where these people reside, and we want to get families reunited. So, what countries does this family reunification process apply to? Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. So if you're not from a citizen or national of Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and by you, I mean the person who's the beneficiary of the immigrant petition, then this does not apply to you. However, dual nationality, if you're a national of one of those countries and another one, this does still apply to you. Who is eligible? Now, if you're watching on Instagram, unfortunately, I can't put the banners on, but if you go to our YouTube or our Facebook page, you could check out this video while they're live or on replay with all the little cute little banners included. So makes it easier to follow along. So there's two individuals that two individuals you have to look at for eligibility purposes. First is a petitioner. That would be your U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. The second thing is that this petitioner has had to file an I-130 petition for alien relative, and it needed to be approved already. Next, the petitioner has had to receive an invite from the Department of State, from the National Visa Center, to file with a form I-134A. And this is the request to initiate the family reunification process. This is an invitation only. And an immigrant visa could not have been issued to your relative prior to the date you received the invitation. Otherwise, they don't need parole. They can just enter on their visa. And you also the petitioner has to be residing in the US. If you're residing back in your country with your family, then you're already reunited with your family. The beneficiary who's the person the U.S. citizen or permanent resident is filing for, must be residing outside the U.S. They have to be principal or derivative of an approved I-130. Have to be a national of one of the countries I just mentioned, Colombia, El Salvador, Honduras, or Guatemala. Their petitioner has to have received the invitation. I know this is a little repetitive. You can't have been issued an immigrant visa as of the date the invitation was sent. You have to have an unexpired passport to travel. You're going to have to get a medical exam, and you're going to have to pass national security and public safety vetting. Just as important of who is eligible, let's see who is not eligible. You crossed illegally into the US after July 20th, 2023, or if you were caught at sea trying to get into the US by boat illegally after July 10th, 2023, you are not eligible. You're also not eligible if you've been ordered removed within the past 5 years, or you're subject to an admissibility bar based on a prior order of removal. So that all needs to be taken care of in order for you to become eligible. So how do I apply for the family reunification process? So the first step is you need to have filed, as I said, an I-130 petition for alien relative for one of your family members. You have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, and that has to be approved. If you're sitting here right now and say, okay, I've done that, you can't just start the process. You have to get an invitation from the Department of State, and they said they're sending them out on a rolling basis. We don't know how they're making their determinations. I will get to in a little if we'll talk about if there's a way for you to request it. You then are going to complete this Form I-134A. Then USCIS is going to perform financial checks, which is you are submitting some financial documents, so they're going to check those, and they're going to verify your ability to financially support the beneficiary. Once they confirm all this, USCIS then contacts the beneficiary, and they tell them, okay, you have to create an online account. By the way, the I-134A also has to be completed online. This is one of the few applications that is required to be electronically filed. So the beneficiary will create an account, they complete an attestation. First, they get a medical exam, then they complete an attestation. And it'll provide instructions on how to do all of that. The beneficiary, once all that's approved, then will receive instructions to download the CBP One mobile app. That's to submit certain biographic information as well as a photograph. Once you're approved, they will post it to your online account. I believe that from what it sounds like, they're also posting the travel document to your online account. And the travel document will be valid for 90 days from the date it was issued, which means that if you're seeking parole into the US, you will have 90 days from the date that they issue the document to come to the US and present it to be paroled into the country. And you also, this is important to note, that if you have filed for multiple people, whether it's your spouse and kids or your spouse or a child and a child's family, you have to submit a separate I-134A application for each family member immigrating to the US. So what is the purpose of the I-134A and what documents do I need? The purpose is simple: to make sure that you're going to be able to financially support your relatives when they come over. This is very similar to the affidavit of support that you're going to need to file, whether they end up waiting and doing the NVC process or consular processing, or if they come to the US on parole and then adjust their status, either way, you're going to need to be able to prove your financial ability to support them. So they're looking at, you have to show you have enough income and or assets to support the intended beneficiaries and the rest of your household with at least 100% that you earn at least 100% of the federal poverty guidelines. It's actually a little lower than the affidavit of support requirement, which is you have to show 125%. If you do the I-134A and your family comes in through the parole process, yes, you will need to do an affidavit of support when they adjust their status. And you can have a co-support, they're not normally called a co-sponsor. You know, they fill out the I-8642, they give us their financial documents, and they're telling the governor, I'm going to support these people too. In this situation, USCIS is calling them a co-supporter. The co-supporter does not need to fill out an I-134A application for anyone. They do need to provide proof of their financials, however, and their identity, and then I think sign a letter saying that they're willing to support these people so they don't become public charges if the petitioner cannot. What is this vetting process? So one thing to keep in mind about this parole process is that's discretionary. That means you have no right to it, and it can be granted, it cannot be granted. So what are they looking at? They're looking at your previous immigration history. They're looking at any encounters you've had with US government entities. If you have any criminal histories, they do a background check on the petitioner. And they also are going to want to confirm the relationship between the petitioner and the beneficiaries. And probably some other stuff they don't really tell us. But basically, it's a background check. What else should you know about the family reunification process? Or what do you really want to know about the family reunification process? This is designed to get your family here faster. If you're in a preference category, meaning you're not an immediate relative, then you might be waiting 10, 12 years, meaning 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, if you're an immediate relative with an approved I-130 petition. Although you have an immigrant visa immediately available, I know clients waiting for months for their case just to be transferred from USCIS to MVC. Then you have to do the MVC process. Then it has to get transferred to the US consulate or embassy in your country. Then you have to be scheduled for an interview. So there's a lot of things that still have to happen once the I-130 is approved, and that can take time. And depending on what country you're from, and these are some of those countries, there is a long wait because of COVID and because of the country conditions, that things aren't great. So this is really an opportunity to, especially if your family is in a dangerous situation, to not have to wait 7 more months possibly to see them, to apply for it right away, for them to come in right away. If you change preference category or any category, then it can affect your eligibility for parole. Just like while you're waiting for the immigrant visa to become available, if you change categories, so if you're an adult and you get married, then you are no longer eligible. If you're an adult child of a permanent resident, then you lose your eligibility. So you have to be very careful about that. If you're married to a US citizen, you get divorced, and your petition was based on your marriage, you're no longer eligible. So you still have to remain eligible. Once the parole is issued, you're going to have 12 months once the parole is issued, once the invitation is sent, your petitioner is going to have 12 months to request this family reunification process. Invitations are being sent, I think I mentioned this earlier, on a rolling basis, which means that not everyone who's eligible will be notified at once. And they have not announced how they're determining who gets sent it first over others. But so don't be surprised if you have a friend who's waiting and they say to you, oh, I got the notice last month and you're still waiting. That might happen. Beneficiaries, so the non-US citizen or permanent resident relative cannot apply for this process on their own. The petitioner has to apply for it. The beneficiary will only get contacted and be allowed to do things on their own once the I-134A is confirmed. If you have any children under 18 who you applied for, they will not be allowed to travel without a parent or a legal guardian. And that's regardless of whether that parent or legal guardian is the principal beneficiary or anyone you applied for at all. They will not let your child under the age of 18 travel alone. If you have a principal beneficiary and derivative beneficiaries, the principal beneficiary has to come to the US first or with the derivatives, which is an important thing to remember. Another thing, whenever you're dealing with the parole process, even when you are granted a parole document, whatever type of parole it is, it could be advanced parole. This is technically a form of advanced parole. It could be a re-entry permit. It could be a refugee travel document. Whenever you're seeking to get paroled into the country, it is up to the discretion of the officer at the border, the Customs and Border Patrol officer that you present the document to decide if they're going to let you in. So you might be approved, and there's always that risk that you get off the plane or you get off the train or you get to the border in the car, you present your travel document, and they turn you away for some reason. Once you are paroled in, you're going to have 3 years to remain in the US. We're not exactly clear yet if they're going to let you renew the parole. They did say you'll be able to file, you'll be able to enter once with that parole document, but you will be able to file for advanced parole if you do need to go out and come back in. You'll also be able to file for employment authorization. You will have to pay a filing fee. They are accepting fee waivers for this type of request, but you will be able to work in the US with permission. And that's especially important if you are not an immediate relative and you have to wait for your immigrant visa to become available. If you work without authorization, you're making yourself inadmissible. You don't get the exception that immediate relatives get. So it is highly recommended to apply for one immediately. It's not like the parole that has been issued to some other categories. For example, the Ukrainians they're getting employment authorization incident to parole, meaning it's part of the package in this case. And that was because of a law passed. So in this case, they have to do it separately. If you get a denial for your I-134A, depending on the reason for the denial, generally, if there's insufficient information, they were quoting that in the explanation, then you will be able to apply again. If you're not eligible or your family members aren't eligible, then you won't, of course, contact an experienced immigration attorney if you're not sure. There is no filing fee. Unlike the work permit application, there is no filing fee for the parole process. And I mentioned this earlier that Haitian and Cuban nationals will soon be able to submit new requests soon. They should be announcing that any day. So how long will it take? Favorite question that clients ask. And it's my favorite question. I'm being a little sarcastic because we're not really sure, and we're never really sure. They never really tell us. What I can tell you is this. The whole point of this is for things to move fast. It's bypassing the interview at the US Embassy or consulate. It's speed tracking your background check. It's kind of skipping some steps to get the family here quicker. So I would be surprised if it took them more than 30 days. I would also not be surprised if it took more than 30 days. I think they're sending the invitations out on a rolling basis so that people who are not eligible do not apply. It also enables them to handle the amount of applications as they come. So that means it should be pretty quick. If it's an effective process, which is what we hope, I would say it should be within 2 weeks. But yeah, I would think 30 days is a decent estimate. But just remember, 30 days versus who knows how long category. And again, even immediate relatives can end up waiting up to a year after their I-130 was approved before they finally have the immigrant visa in their passport. Where's my invitation? So if you think you're eligible and you've not received an invitation, a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one is that you need to make sure that NBC has your most recent contact information. So they're uploading. They're noticing, they're sending out notices to petitioners via email and regular mail. If your email or your regular mail address that you have on file with the USCIS is now incorrect, then make sure you change it. And the way that you do that, I will put this link in the comments to make it easier, but this is basically the public inquiry form for the National Visa Center that you fill out. You can also fill this out to say, hey, Department of State, I'm a petitioner. I am family members back in one of these 4 countries. I believe I'm eligible. Can you please, send me an invitation? Right now, we don't know how quickly they're responding, but this is the same place you're going to go to update your contact information and notify them that you believe you're eligible, especially if you're waiting for a while. So the bottom line is, get back to there we go. The new Family Reunification Parole Process, as I said, affects citizens and nationals of Colombia, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. If you believe that you are eligible, if you're a petitioner who believes you're eligible, or a beneficiary who believes your petitioner is eligible, and you haven't received your invitation, or you have and you need help, on Facebook and YouTube, our contact information is scrolling across the bottom of your screen. On Instagram, you can go to our bio page and find us there. We'd be happy to help. And what we do hope is that this new process is rolled out smoothly. Families can be reunited and not have to undergo those long wait periods in very, very dangerous conditions. Let me see if there's any questions that I missed. Nobody's asked any questions. All right, but if you do have any questions, you know where to find me. I will put that link, like I said, in the comment section where all the videos are where I post all the videos. So that is all for what you really want to know. Don't forget to like us, follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, so you don't miss any of our lives. Go ahead, click that share button if you think that you know someone who may find this useful or you yourself found it useful. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.